Imagine the ticking of a clock, each second steady, relentless, pushing us forward. Most of us accept time as a one-way road, a straight line we're forced to walk down without pause or retreat. But across history, rumors keep surfacing of people, experiments, and events that hint at cracks in that line. Tonight, we explore 10 of the strangest, most talked-about cases where time itself seemed to bend. Some are myths, some are hoaxes, and some are mysteries that remain unsolved. Together, they form a strange archive of humanity's obsession with breaking the rules of reality. The story begins in 1943 with what's become known as the Philadelphia experiment. According to legend, the U.S. Navy tried to render the USS Eldridge invisible using a powerful electromagnetic field. Witnesses claim the ship vanished into a green fog, reappeared hundreds of miles away in Norfolk, Virginia, and then blinked back to Philadelphia. The aftermath was said to be horrific. Sailors fused into the ship's metal, some driven insane, others disappearing altogether. The Navy denies it ever happened, and most historians dismiss the tale as rumor amplified by one eccentric witness. But the idea that military experiments might tamper with space and time is so compelling that the Philadelphia experiment has remained one of the most famous legends of modern folklore. Even now, documentaries and novels use the event as shorthand for government secrets too dark to reveal. Then there's Rudolph Fentz, the supposed man out of time. The story goes that in the 1950s, he appeared suddenly in New York's Times Square, disoriented, dressed in 19th century clothes, carrying items that belonged to that era, but were still in pristine condition. Minutes later, he was struck by a car and killed. When police investigated, they discovered a man with the same name had disappeared in 1876. Though later debunked as a work of fiction, mistaken for fact, the Fentz tale lingers because it captures the unsettling fantasy of slipping into the wrong century, of finding yourself in a world that has moved on without you. It also plays into one of our deepest fears, that we can be plucked from everything familiar without warning, and no one will ever know why. The internet age brought its own time traveler, John Titor. Beginning in the year 2000, someone claiming that name flooded online forums with detailed accounts of being a soldier from the year 2036. He said he was sent back to retrieve an IBM 5100 computer needed to debug future systems. Titor warned of civil war in America, nuclear conflict in 2015, and a fractured world struggling to rebuild. His posts included diagrams of his supposed time machine and technical talk about singularities and gravity. The nuclear war never happened, but Titor's consistent, eerie storytelling turned him into an online legend. Some believe he was a hoaxer with an eye for science fiction. Others cling to the idea that he came from a timeline that diverged from ours. Either way, he showed how powerfully the internet could amplify a single, mysterious voice, transforming anonymous posts into a full-blown mythology. In 2003, another figure made headlines. Andrew Carlssin, a man allegedly arrested by the SEC after turning $800 into $350 million through 126 flawless trades. He confessed, the story claimed, to being a time traveler from the year 2256 who simply couldn't resist using his knowledge of the future to get rich. He offered to reveal secrets about Osama bin Laden and cures for major diseases in exchange for leniency, then supposedly vanished without a trace. In reality, the Carlssin story originated from a satirical article, but once tabloids picked it up, it snowballed into one of the most retold times travel legends of the 21st century. What's interesting is that people wanted to believe it. because it perfectly expressed a fantasy so many of us share. If only we could get tomorrow's stock report today, everything would change. Sometimes the evidence comes not from testimony but from film. In 2010, a strange moment in Charlie Chaplin's 1928 movie, The Circus, resurfaced. In one scene outside Grauman's Chinese theater, a woman walks by with her hand pressed to her ear, speaking as though into a cell phone. To modern eyes, it looked exactly like someone using 20th century technology decades too early. Explanations ranged from a primitive hearing aid to a trick of the camera, but the clip went viral because it felt like catching a time traveler red-handed, wandering into history by accident. What makes it stick is how ordinary it looks. Not a glowing machine, not a wormhole, just a quiet woman in the background of a silent film, holding something in her hand she shouldn't have had. The next story takes us to Versailles in 1901, when two English school teachers, Anne Moberly and Eleanor Jourdain, reported a strange experience. While walking the grounds of the Petit Trianon, they suddenly felt the atmosphere change. The world grew unnaturally quiet, colors appeared muted, and they claimed to see people in 18th century clothing, even Marie Antoinette sketching on the lawn. When they came to, the vision vanished. They later published a book describing the incident as a slip through time. Critics suggested stress, imagination, or coincidence, but their detailed account became one of the most famous alleged time slip cases in history. What makes their story powerful is not just what they claimed to see, but how normal they were. Two women, respected in their field, who never sought publicity or wealth from their experience. In 2006, a Swedish man named Håkan Nordkvist went viral claiming he had crawled under his sink to repair a pipe and found himself in a tunnel leading to the future. There, he said, he met his older self, wrinkled, gray-haired, but undeniably him. As proof, he filmed a short video of himself and his future self comparing identical tattoos. Most believe it was a marketing stunt or fabrication, but the video spread widely, feeding into the enduring fascination with meeting the person you will one day become. Whether real or fake, the idea behind it is irresistible. If you could sit down across from yourself at 70 years old, what would you say? The Montauk Project is a darker tale, tied to rumors of secret government experiments on Long Island in the 1980s. Whistleblowers and conspiracy theorists claimed that Camp Hero housed projects on mind control, teleportation, and time travel. Some alleged that the Philadelphia experiment was the precursor, and that Montauk scientists perfected ways to open time tunnels, sending children into other eras. The story ballooned into a sprawling mythos blending MK Ultra, alien contact, and Cold War paranoia. Though no credible evidence has surfaced, the Montauk tales inspired books, documentaries, and even elements of popular shows like Stranger Things. And while skeptics call it fiction, others insist the government hides stranger things than we can imagine. In 2008, reports emerged of a bizarre artifact in China, a tiny Swiss wristwatch supposedly discovered in a 400-year-old sealed tomb. The piece was inscribed with the word Swiss and frozen at 10:06. To believers, it was evidence of a time traveler dropping their accessory in the wrong century. Archaeologists and skeptics quickly dismissed it, suggesting contamination of the site or outright fabrication. But the time traveler's watch still circulates online as one of those irresistible anomalies. It works the same way as the Chaplin clip, simple, visual, and easy to believe because it asks so little of us. Finally, there's the case of Mike Markham, a Missouri man in the 1990s who tinkered with a Jacob's ladder device and claimed to have built a rudimentary time machine. He said he tested it with objects that vanished and reappeared scorched. Eventually, he stepped into the device himself and was never seen again. Months later, police in another state reported finding the body of an unidentified man killed by unusual machinery. Some connect this to Markham, though nothing was proven. His story is half urban legend, half cautionary tale about obsession with bending time. What unites all of these stories is not proof, but possibility. Each one lingers because it speaks to a part of us that wants to believe time isn't a locked prison. Maybe governments experiment in secret. Maybe people slip accidentally into the past or future. Maybe hoaxers craft legends so convincing that we half believe them anyway. Time travel stories survive because they let us imagine escape. Escape from regret, from limitation, from fate itself. They remind us that the future is both terrifying and intoxicating, and that no matter how many times these tales are debunked, we'll keep listening, hoping, and wondering if somewhere, somehow, someone has already cracked the code. Comment, like, and subscribe for more mysteries, legends, and strange stories that test the limits of what we think is possible.